going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boy, do I have a good video for you guys. I've got some more parts that have come in. As you can see, this new build for next year is gonna be crazy. I can't wait to show you guys what we're doing, but we're not here to talk about that today. We'll do some unboxing and I'll kind of go through the new build once we get to that point, but for right now, we're just kind of gathering parts. Everything's starting to slowly come in, but last night I did install a new steering wheel from Motion Raceworks. This is the MPI wheel. So previously, let me see where it's at. It's a freaking mess in here. There's just been a ton of stuff going on. But previously, I had this MPI wheel from ordered from Motion Raceworks, which is a super nice wheel. Had the two bracket buttons on there. But I decided to switch it up and get the new MPI wheel. That's like Alcantara on the outside. It's a little bit slimmer profile on the steering wheel. It's super nice. And then shout out to Maven, my good friends over there. They sent me this custom Maven. Well, it's not custom. You can actually order this one, but they do make custom horn button deletes. But this is the Maven logo. They sent me a turbo flange for the new build, which, like I said, I'll go over with you guys in the next video. But got this installed last night. Got the buttons set up. Set some scramble for the haters and a little bump box to get us in the beams. But got the new wheel. That thing is super sick. But I will show you guys. I'll just show you. This is the Maven turbo mount flange that I got in. It's all billet. I currently have one in the car and their actual mount that holds the turbo up. But this is for the new turbo, which, like I said, I'll go over all that stuff in another video because I want to save that till after this weekend of racing. I kind of want to start going over the new build, start unboxing a lot of the new parts. But we'll do that in the next video. For today, we're going to talk about how much it has cost me to go sevens. Now, there's a couple disclaimers here, okay? You don't have to spend this much. Obviously, Midnight Performance has gone sevens in the Gen 3 setup with a stock motor and with a 10R80. I have a Turbo 400, which is super impressive that they were able to do that. But I want to post this as if you had to replicate my exact setup, this is what I have spent. Now, the disclaimers for my specific setup, I'm not going to include fuel, which I've spent a ton of money on fuel. I'm not going to include oil, any of that stuff. You got to think like the oil changes on this thing are like over 120 bucks. Spark plugs, I'm not going to include any of that. That's kind of just maintenance items. I'm not going to include, here's like one of the biggest things. I'm not going to include labor because myself and Streetcar Joe have literally done everything ourselves besides rebuild the transmission when it went out. We have literally put hours and hours and hours and hours, insane amount of time. Huge thanks to Streetcar Joe. If you haven't followed him on Instagram already, go ahead and do so. But this car would be nowhere near where it's at without Streetcar Joe, literally. He's helped me put this whole car together. We've done so much custom shit on this car that no one else has done. You know, we've set records in this car. He's helped me with the tune-ups, like suspension dialing in, what to launch the car at, what to leave at. I mean, he's been a huge help, and this car would be nowhere where it's at without his help. So that is one of the biggest disclaimers of today's video, is there's no labor involved because we've literally done everything ourselves. I try and put my hand on everything, but I can't weld. Joe's a badass welder. And some stuff I just don't have the knowledge to do, but he shows me how to do it and we do it together. But yeah, labor is a big thing. So doing stuff yourself is good because it saves you money. It's also good because if it breaks, you kind of know how to take it apart and fix it, is my biggest thing. But yeah, that's a big disclaimer there. Another disclaimer is how many setups I've been through. You know, like I'm on my second Turbo 400. I'm on my third turbo kit, third turbo. I've changed wheels 3 times. You know, the amount of times I've gone out of town to go testing just to see if stuff has worked. Not even to go racing, just to go testing to see if the suspension working, if the turbo setup's working, if the, you know, boost ramp is good, blah, whatever. I mean, I've gone out of town, you know, and it'll cost us anywhere from $600 up to, you know, a $2,000 trip to go to Florida. So, you know, just going somewhere local, you know, within 4 to 6 hours could end up costing you $600 $700 by the time you figure in gas, maintenance on the car, and entry and all that stuff. That stuff adds up super quick. So this doesn't include any traveling, any testing, the amount of logs I've gone back and forth with John Lund Jr. This is just going to be like the initial tune price. So I have a price for you guys if you want to replicate this exact setup to go 7s reliably, because it does have a built motor. It's got a built Turbo 400. This thing has gone 7s now multiple times. It's been 5.0s to the 8th now multiple times. It's definitely got more in it, but I'm ready to upgrade and go even that much faster. So I've got a list for you guys. It's kind of going to be all over the place, but things I did include, and obviously we're about to talk about that, but I did include safety equipment because that's, you know, a necessity to go this fast. And even where I'm at, I technically don't have the right cage. You know, I have an 850 cage in the car, and that's not correct for how fast I'm going. There's a lot of cars out there going fast, just as fast as I am, if not faster, without any type of cage. At the minimum, I do recommend an 850 cage. So really, I need like a 25.2, 25.3, 25.5, something like that to be technically legal for how fast I'm going. But safety gear is super expensive. I was just talking about this with Brady, and I've had this talk with Joe before, like, and actually I talked to Kennedy about it the other night because I ordered a Hans device, and a Hans device can range from $500 all the way up to like $1,500. Now, to get you a really nice one that you need, you can get away with spending probably $500 to $600. I spent like almost $600 on mine, and it's the one that you can get from Motion Raceworks. I think it's like the Rev Gen or Next Gen Rev 2 Lite, something like that. But that is stuff you have to have. You have to have a helmet. You have to have the correct fire suit. This stuff gets expensive, but it's a necessity. And at the same time, here's my analogy for you before we get into the pricing. It's kind of like eating healthy, right? Eating healthy is actually more expensive typically than you know, eating junk and fast food and all that crap. But it's better for you, right? Well, safety gear is super expensive, but it's what you need, it's what you're supposed to have, but it's super expensive, so a lot of people don't buy the right safety gear. A lot of people don't eat healthy. That's my analogy for you. So, let's dive right into the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and just dive right into it. Coyote engines, they're not cheap to build. They're just not cheap to build. So, my engine, sleeved, O-ringed, still stock heads, no port and polish, nothing. It does have valve springs in it to help with valve float, stock cams, pretty much built bottom end, sleeved and O-ringed. It was about $10,000. Now, that doesn't include shipping back and forth, oil, any of that stuff, but it's about a $10,000 job. So that's a big one right off the bat. So we're going to knock out some of the bigger stuff at first, and then we'll kind of get into the smaller details. $10,000 on the engine. I haven't had to do much with it, but like I said, that doesn't include, you know, all the fluids. If you wanted to do port and polish heads, if you want to do cams and do retainers, any of that type of stuff, that's obviously going to be more. But you can figure sleeved and O-ringed, bottom end, all assembled, back to a long block, valve springs, it's about 10 grand. The Turbo 400 conversion kit I have in here was about 8 grand. Now, that doesn't include when I went to rebuild the Turbo 400 because I snapped the input shaft in it and decided to do everything billet and literally refresh and rebuild everything in it. It cost me $4,000 to do that. So originally the kit with drive shaft, the fans, the shifter, the Hurst shifter, the converter, pretty much everything you need minus like a few odds and ends was almost $8,000. Plus, I spent $4,000 to rebuild it, but I'm not going to include that because that's not necessarily saying you have to rebuild it. So we've got $10,000 already on the engine, about $8,000 on the Turbo 400 conversion. Now, gotta get my handy dandy paper out that I got here. So this turbo specifically was about $3,000 with the turbo blanket. I think it's like $2,900, and this turbo blanket's like $150, $200. It's a pretty inexpensive. This is like an Amazon special, and it's actually worked really well. So I used to have a really expensive turbo blanket on my previous turbos, but I kept upgrading turbos and I had to buy a different size turbo blanket each time. So I ended up buying this Amazon one. It's actually worked out really well. I think it was honestly like only 100, 200 bucks. So pretty much $3,000 for the turbo. This custom Aldo Welds air to water intercooler was, it was a little over $1,600, but I'm just going to call it $1,600. You know, with fittings and all that stuff adds up super quick. I kind of left fittings and all that in a separate category and just kind of guessed on them. But let me give you a heads up. Any type of AN style fitting, this is one fitting. They're like $30, depending on which ones you get. That stuff adds up super quick. As you know, this car is like AN fittings everywhere. Anyways, moving on. The manifolds, these are CG Fab manifolds. These are the manifolds I've actually always ran on the car, and I've actually had pretty good luck with them so far. I did have them ceramic coated at one time to kind of help with dissipating heat and help them last longer, but those were about $1,000 just for the manifolds. I put the blow-off valves and wastegates. Obviously there's one blow-off valve, two wastegates on this car. There's one up there and one hiding down there. It's about $1,000 for all three of those, give or take. You know, if you find stuff on sale, I'm just kind of doing like the retail price on all this. Obviously, you can get discounts and find stuff on sale, Black Friday, all that good jazz. This is kind of just like your basic retail price right off the showroom floor. As far as all the piping, now, like I said, Joe and I did all this. Joe did all the welding, all the fitting and cutting, and so there's really no price on the labor. But all the piping and the T-bolt clamps and the couplers, I figured is about $1,000. Now you might say that's kind of high, but trust me, go buy aluminum, like super nice aluminum piping like this, the MAF flange, the aluminum O2 bung. You know, this is an aluminum exhaust. Aluminum exhaust is very expensive. I have another downpipe kit over there for the next turbo, but the V-bands are super expensive. Like I said, the couplers add up, the T-bolt clamps that stuff all adds up. So all in all, with all the intercooler piping, all the couplers, T-bolt clamps, miscellaneous fittings here and there, and then the 5-inch aluminum exhaust, you're about $1,000 in materials, because I also included the cross pipe from the header to header with those V-band flanges and the flex pipe, wastegate dumps. You know, there's a lot of material, guys, and it's all different sizes, it's all different bends. So about $1,000, couplers, fittings, clamps, all that good stuff, and all the intercooler piping, hot side, cold side, all that good stuff. About $1,000 there. Now, I kind of jumped around and went to the back side. When I was doing this, I was kind of jumping around just trying to remember where stuff was at on the car and like how much I paid for it. So I kind of jumped back to the rear. I've got drive shaft shop, 2,000 horsepower, boltless axles in the back. Those are about $1,600. I have about $1,600 in brakes. You know, I've got bears in the back, strangers in the front. And same thing like I talked about earlier, I'm not including all the times like I've had to replace brake pads or rotors, any of the maintenance stuff, or how I've switched brands 3 different times. You know, I used to have bears on the front, I've had TBMs on the front, and now I have strangers on the front, and we're about to get strangers on the back. This is just including a one-time purchase, not all the times I've changed, because I like to change everything on the car. So about $1,600 in brakes. Viking Crusaders in the rear, those are $600. Viking Crusader front coilovers, custom spec'd, those are about $1,400, give or take. And then I have a ton of BMR parts on here, so I kind of just included all of them. You know, I've got these up here for the coilovers. I've got the upper camber arms in the back, vertical links, BMR springs in the back, the lower bearing for the lower control arm. I've got the K-member on the front. So I kind of just coupled all that together. There's probably about $1,500 just in BMR suspension on this car. Like I said, give or take a few bucks here and there, but that's pretty much, because there's a few parts I can't think of right now. But there's about $1,500 just in BMR suspension on this car. Now, if you add up the coilovers and the shocks, I mean, you're talking $3,500 to $4,000 just in suspension parts on this car. Like I said, not to say you need these exact suspension parts, but if you want to replicate the 60-foot times, the exact setup that I have, this is kind of what you're getting into. Then I kind of jumped over to the fuel system. So I just switched over to FIC 2150s. These, I believe, are about $1,600 new. I did have ID 1700Xs, which were about $2,300 new. So I just put the FIC price on this list because those are the most recent ones. Like I said, I've had ID 1050Xs on here. I've had ID 1700Xs on here. And now I've had FIC 2150s. So I'm not including the price of switching 3 times. I'm just going to include the price of the one-time purchase of the most recent injectors. I do have the Lethal Performance Division X return style triple pump fuel setup. So it comes with all super nice pre-made Fragola lines, 2 air motive fuel regulators, 2 fuel rails, and then it's a triple pump setup in the back. Now, I got mine, I think on Black Friday or something. This is before I worked with Lethal Performance, but it is about $2,500 for that fuel system. Now, it's the right way to go. It's return style. Got all the super nice pre-made lines, super nice fuel rails, good triple pump system with the hat. It is the correct way to go. You don't want to cheap out on a fuel system. Now, I'm sure there's cheaper ones out there, but this is, like I said, if you want to replicate my setup. So $2,500 there. And then I kind of jumped around to the wheels. Like I said, I'm on my 3rd set of welds. I've had 2 other pairs of like cheaper wheels, but just gonna price out the ones that I have now. It was about $2,500 just for the rear setup with the bead locks, no tires included. About another $500 for tires on the rear. The front wheels, those were about $1,400 for both. And then those front tires are pretty cheap. It's about $300 for a pair of those tires. Now jumping onto the inside. Now this is kind of where I just kind of put a number there. This cage is from another company. You can buy this cage for about, I think it was like $700 or $800 just the material, but you still have to do some cutting and getting some final fitment. Plus then you got to pay someone to weld it together. So what I did was TRZ, or sorry, not TRZ, Tin Soldier Race Cars has a weld-in cage. Theirs starts at $1,200, so I just put $1,200 to $1,500, depending on which brand you go with. Fat House Fab also has a super nice 850 cage. Like I said, you still got to pay someone to weld it all in, do final fitment, but you're looking at $1,200, upwards of almost $1,800, just depending on like materials that you go with. This is chromoly, so it's a little bit lighter. So I'd recommend you spend the couple extra $100 and get the chromoly, because you don't want to have to cut that out and redo it. But $1,200 to $1,500 there just for materials. I do have an MMR carbon dash. Like I said, this is if you wanted to replicate my setup. That's an $800 carbon dash. Going over to some electronics. So I have the AMS 1000 boost controller. It's hidden back there. That's $1,000. That's how we set up the boost that we're leaving at, the boost ramp as far as time goes, and then the overall boost. It's a super nice boost controller. At some point, I'll upgrade to like an AMS 2000, but the AMS 1000 does its job here. N2MB watt box, so the thing that holds my car at the RPM that I select. That's $200, and then I have the smooth stage bump, which my car doesn't always smooth stage, but the smooth stage bump box I have, that's $300, and then I do have the, we'll go over to that side, I do have the Lund Racing N-Gauge setup, which initially is like a $1,200 investment because you buy the N-Gauge, you buy your tune for like a turbo car on E85, ends up being about $1,200. Now this doesn't include revisions or trackside service that they offer, but this is kind of just to get you started. It's about $1,200. Definitely worth the investment. Literally the best tuners in the game for Mustangs. The new MPI wheel I just got, that was $250. The manual steering rack that I have on there from Flaming River, it's about $800. And then I do have the manual steering column from Motion Raceworks. That's about $350. And then for 2 buttons with brackets, which I'm not using the brackets anymore because this wheel just holds the buttons, but 2 buttons and 2 brackets is about $120 just for those little guys. So it's really the little things that honestly add up. Going over to some more safety style stuff. The parachute mount, that's from Motion Raceworks. That's about $370. The billet handle, that's inside the car, and then to the cable, that's about $120. And then these chutes, guys, You don't want to cheap out on the chutes. This is a Stroud, I think it's a 420. That's a $400 parachute. The parachute itself is $400, and these you don't want to cheap out because obviously that's going to save your ass. But $400 on that. And then going over to the safety stuff, the helmet I currently have, which I'm going to upgrade my helmet here soon, but the helmet I have right now is a Racequip. It's about $250. I just got this new Sparko suit, and it's crazy, but this is like a $700 very nice Sparko fire suit. It's technically not even the right one. It's supposed to have a 15-layer suit. If you guys read the rules, Joe and I had talked about this before, but if you read the rules, E85 is considered in the same category as alcohol and methanol, which you were supposed to have a 15-layer suit. Those suits are like $1,500. They are not cheap. Even this suit is a 5-layer Sparko, and it was $700 for the jacket and pants. Once again, you shouldn't cheap out on safety equipment. It's super expensive, but that could save your life if you happen to get in a wreck. So $250 on the helmet, $700 on the suit. And then I don't have the trunk open right now, but I just upgraded to the Braille battery. Like I said, this is one thing you definitely don't have to do, but for me, I love having the Braille battery back here. It's super awesome. It is a $1,000 battery, and then you have to buy the Braille lithium charger, which is over there. And that was $400 just for the charger. And then once again, another thing you don't have to have, but the AM CD7 screen I have is $1,400. Like I said, guys, this is just to replicate, if you wanted to replicate my exact setup. CO2 kit from Motion Raceworks with all the fittings and lines. That is about $400. These Racequip harnesses, they're about $300 for a pair of 2. And then gotta have a catch can with lines. They usually run about $250, sometimes more, but like I said, the fittings and the lines is what really adds up on all this stuff. The custom fuel cell I have in the back, that's a fuel cell ice tank combo. It's about $600. And then the Davy Craig's water pump for the ice box is $200. And then I have like, this is hilarious, but it's like another $250 just in titanium lug nuts. And I've also had to buy them every time I get wheels because they're always different. But these titanium lug nuts from the tie shop are the nicest ones I've ever used. They don't, they don't get beat up over time. They are they're like brand new all the time. I've had a lot of those billet aluminum lug nuts. I wish I had one in my hand to show you, but those billet aluminum lug nuts that are like black and silver, they get chewed up over time from the sockets. But these titanium lug nuts are definitely worth the price. So let's give you guys, and then like another, I think this was $250 to $300 for this BL Fab single fan setup with the harness and everything. But I had to do that to make the turbo kit fit with the new size turbo. Okay, so real quick, I did include 2 Kirkies, 2 covers, and the 2 Fat House brackets in my configuration of pricing, just because, like I said, I want to include safety because these are things you definitely should have. But our grand total comes out to $55,979. Now, that could be a little sickening for some, and probably what's more sickening is that I've probably doubled that because I've gone through so many different setups. Like I said, I've changed turbos 3 times. I've changed fuel pumps. I've changed injectors 3 times. I've changed wheels 3 times. I've changed suspension. I've changed everything. Now, this doesn't even include the wrap. Like I said, any of the miscellaneous stuff, all the maintenance on the car. It gets crazy, like, replacing tires all the time, doing the oil changes that are like over $100, all the race fuel, that stuff is not cheap. So I'm super grateful for Streetcar Joe. Literally, this is just parts. That $55,979 is just parts. Could you imagine the labor? There's easily $10,000 to $20,000 worth of labor into this car, if not more. There is a lot of labor in this car. All these little jobs here and there would add up. And it doesn't include, like I said, the traveling costs, traveling to racing, travel to go testing, the fuel for the car, the fuel for the truck, the trailer, all the replacement parts I like to keep on hand. Any of that stuff, guys, it is expensive. It is a terrible hobby, but I love it. So I'm super grateful for all the sponsors that have helped me out through over the years. You know, we're only on like year 2 of this project, but it's gone so much better and we've gone so much faster than I ever thought we would be. And it's really awesome. And honestly, like I said, huge thanks to Streetcar Joe, huge thanks to Kennedy for always supporting, and a huge thanks to the sponsors that have helped, whether they're still helping with the car or not helping with the car. There's some people that have really helped me at times, and couldn't be more grateful for them. So check the links in the bio. But you know, RPG Engines helped me out a ton with this engine. All right, sorry, the camera died there for a second, but huge thanks to all the sponsors, like I said, that have helped out, still helping out, or helped out in the past. Like I said, huge thanks to RPG Engines, Fuel Injector Clinic, who just recently jumped on board, Maven Performance, you can check them out, mavenspeed.com. That's where I got the horn delete button from, and then that's where I get all the turbo flanges and turbo mounts. Super nice products, and Joseph uses a lot of their stuff for wiring. Huge thanks to Motion Raceworks. They've helped me out back when I first started. Big thanks to BMR Suspension, code VANV39. They've helped me out a ton. Obviously, this car would not get down the track without BMR Suspension and my guy Dion over there. Huge thanks to Lund Racing. They actually don't sponsor me, but without them, none of this would be possible. The amount of logs and tunes I've gone back and forth with John Lund Jr. and the guys over at Lund Racing. I mean, literally the best tuner. Everyone always asks. I don't know why people ask these stupid questions on Facebook. Who's the best tuner? Literally, Lund Racing. They have all the records. No one else can compete with the stock ECU in the Coyotes. Lund Racing has it figured out. Don't go anywhere else. I'm done. I'm done answering that question. But yeah, huge thanks to all those guys that have helped. Viking helped me out with the coilovers in the front. Like I said, the rest is all BMR Suspension, Motion Raceworks, RPG Engines, and a few others that I am probably forgetting. Oh yeah, 1-ethanol fuel. Of course, got to keep fuel in this car. But, you know, Manuel from Midnight Performance, I love when people tag me. People always tag me in Manuel's posts. They don't know that I talk to Manuel all the time, but whatever. But they always tag me in his posts, like if I don't see his freaking post or something. But anyways, Manuel had posted when their 2018 Mustang VIX car went 790s on the stock motor, and he posted, because people always ask, how much does it cost to go this fast? Well, he posted, and I think he came up with like 37,000. That car has no safety gear. They didn't include like the helmet and the actual fire suits themselves and the harnesses like I did. They didn't go into as much detail, but I think he came out to like 37,000. And that's on a stock motor. So guys, it is not cheap to go fast, and that's on a 10R80, but a 10R80 that's built by Manuel at Midnight Performance. It is not cheap to go fast. Now, if you pick up this car for $25,000 to $28,000, and then you drop, you know, 40 to 50 grand in it, and you've got a very reliable low 8-second car, maybe possibly a high 7-second car, that's pretty legit. It is not cheap to go fast. You know, even our buddy Jack Roberts, he's got the 4.8 record. You know, he's gone 7s with a stock bottom end out of or a stock bottom end 4.8, whatever it is. You know, he's still got like a super nice turbo system on it, super nice Holley, just nice parts on it. Like, yeah, it's a Fox body, but it's still a Fox body with super nice cage. It didn't look the best on the outside, but it still had nice parts. Yes, it had a stock bottom end, which saves you money, but it's still expensive to go fast. I don't care who you are. Now, people are always trying to go fast for the least amount of money as possible. Good luck. It is very tough, and you will break stuff, and you'll have to replace it, and it gets very expensive. So just know that it is not cheap to do this type of stuff. That's not to scare anybody away, but just be smart with your money. And what I try and do is sell parts that I no longer need to keep funding the project moving forward. So, you know, my old turbo, I sell, I buy a new turbo. So I try and keep my stuff in good condition. That way I can sell it and have some money towards the next project or next part that I'm getting. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit more insight on the car. Like I said, it's about $55,000 if you wanted to replicate this exact setup, not including the price of the car and not including the price of labor. not including the price of Streetcar Joe. He's not cheap. All the testing and all that stuff back and forth, replacement parts, maintenance. But if you had 55 grand, you go buy a car like this car for $28,000, drop 55 grand into it, and you'd have this exact setup. You would just have to either pay someone to do it all or do it all yourself, and hopefully you're a good welder. So I just wanted to give you guys some more insight on that. Like I said, not able to go to Maryland, but we are going to hit Streetcar Takeover OKC hopefully this weekend. Been doing some logs with the new fuel setup, and we think, or John thinks he's got it pretty much under control. Unfortunately, he'll be at Maryland, where I was supposed to be, but they'll be at Maryland testing out the Blue Goose and the gray car, and those cars are going to absolutely fly. They're on stock ECUs, which is really cool, and they're still IRS cars, which is also really cool. My car is still an IRS car as well. But those cars are going to fly. It's going to be insane. I'm really excited. I like the Blue Goose car. It's freaking awesome. But that gray car is insane. If you guys haven't seen it, you can go check them out, Lund Racing. That car is going to be insane, though. So pretty excited to see those guys. I was hoping I was going to go up there and race with them, but just wasn't in the cards this year. Couldn't make it happen. So we will most likely be at Streetcar Takeover this weekend. And we'll see if we can push the car a little bit more with the new fuel system. That's kind of what was holding us back. But majority of it also is that the cams are not locked in this car. And so that's kind of what's holding us back up top. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight on what it takes to get here. Like I said, didn't want to steer anyone away, but I know people always ask questions, and some people aren't always willing to give out the answers. So there is a start for you. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram, David VANVORIS. I will see you guys on the next one.